Gold participants and listeners from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC for Gold Learning. And I'm here today with a guest, and my guest today is Melissa Cole. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, Kristen. Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to have you here with us today, we're gonna be chatting about. You have two presentations with us this year
I
here at Gold, right?
do. I'm very
And
excited to share with our global audience. Yes.
Oh, that is fantastic. And we start first. This presentation or this chat here will focus on the presentation Beyond Fenugreek, an individualized approach to dietary and herbal galactagogues, and we're going to jump into that just a little bit. But before we do all that, Melissa, where in the world are you located?
I am in Portland, Oregon, where we had a few days of sun, but mostly it's rainy and
Oh.
gray. So,
Mm.
um, but it's beautiful. There's an hour to the mountains or the ocean, and we just have beautiful scenery here and lots of botanical medicine.
That is right, because you might be sitting there right at the source, isn't that right?
Yeah, we have a lot of wonderful things that grow wildly around here. It's very rich.
Oh, beautiful. I can imagine it. I have not been to this area, but it sounds wonderful. And is it true that it rains a lot, as you mentioned, during the
Absolutely, which
year?
is a blessing
Mm.
and a curse, right? It gives us greenery and thriving plants, but everybody has to remember to take their vitamin D because we don't get enough sunshine. But if you ever
Right.
come and visit, I'd be happy to have you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Okay, now tell our listeners about a little bit about your background, who you are, and what you're working on these days.
Absolutely. Well, even before I was into lactation, I have had a long, lasting love for herbal medicine, and it probably started with my childhood and having a family that was interested in natural medicines. But that interest even precedes my interest in lactation. And for my own family, my kids are 16, 13, and 10 now. I've primarily used herbs and other natural remedies as our primary um, care strategies. Obviously, with conventional medicine as needed, but herbs are really powerful, and I'm excited to speak about it. I am interested in doing some additional research in this field, and it's quite difficult to perform good primary research, so I'm still working on formulating some herbally based studies.
Oh, wonderful. That sounds super interesting. Um, and you also have an educational background, isn't that right? So it sounds to me
Yes.
like you can package all this good, what you have, all your wonderful, education and backgrounds that you have, and package that neatly into a nice little package for us here today, and come up with wonderful
Yes.
presentations.
Yes, my master's of science degree is in therapeutic herbalism, and that was a wonderful program to go through and sort of the pinnacle of learning about not just the traditional aspect of herbalism, but really getting deep into the phytochemistry and scientific medicinal properties of herbs. And so that is my master's degree, and it's so great to be able to kind of share that and extrapolate the lactation related information for this audience. And a shameless plug, if this piques listeners' interest, I do, intensive herbal workshops for healthcare providers. So I do feel passionate about sharing this information.
Oh, absolutely. That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. So our listeners might like to find out more about that. So you have
Absolutely.
workshops, and so they can contact you and find out more on your
Absolutely.
website, assume,
Yes.
and find more out about it more. Because I think herbalism is it's a wonderful topic, but very, very, very involved. I must tell you, I took just a little workshop once. I am a midwife in background, and it was wonderful, but also I found out, oh my goodness, this you have
Right.
to study this for years and
Oh,
years and years, because there's
absolutely.
certain herbs you can't take together. Some are, not indicated during pregnancy, and I felt like, oh my goodness, these people who study this is just like medicine, the
Yep,
doctors,
absolutely.
but in the field of herbalism. Isn't
But
that
that's
right?
a great viewpoint because that's true, right? When someone's sort of a beginner or novice, we kind of think, well, I can learn that. There's not too much to know. And then the more you learn about something, you realize, oh my goodness, there's so much I don't know that I need to know. And that's, I think, what I'm hoping with this talk and beyond is just to pique listeners' interest that it is a very deep study. That shouldn't scare people away from wanting to learn more, however, but it should help guide them to more appropriate informed decision-making processes when it comes to their clients and beyond.
Absolutely. I think it's good to have that information to know. Yeah. And especially, I feel like today, especially with social media, we see a lot of things, people dabbling in herbs, and which is
Yeah.
all well intended because we want to be, holistic. We want to have a holistic approach. We
Yes.
want to stay away from pharmaceuticals or, but then you see things online, about oils, essential oils, and
Yes.
things like that, and also lactation cookies and
Uh-huh.
teas and
Absolutely.
I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of information out there, and and herbs are wonderful, and we want to utilize them, but we want to utilize them in a good way, in a correct way, and we want to help
Absolutely.
our clients, our lactation clients, our families, when we give advice, we want to make sure that what we are sharing
Mm-hmm.
is based on, scientific research, and not just like, oh, take a few drops of this and that
Ah,
because we've seen it on
yes.
we've seen it on a website somewhere, right?
And I think, parents and families, they are on social media looking to empower themselves to care for their family because there isn't a lot that maybe they're getting from their own care team, so they're looking to care for themselves. And one of the main points that I'll be sharing in this talk and that I hope people take advantage of are what are our safety resources? What can we turn to when we need to look up safety and accuracy and evidence and be able to provide families with information? Because just because something is natural doesn't mean it's safe. And so we want to have a more in-depth view of botanicals and take them seriously just like we would any pharmaceutical.
Absolutely, take them seriously. But on the flip side, also they are wonderful. From that's why I'm very excited about your presentation. We will learn quite a lot there of what can be done and what is actually working and what can be used. Isn't that right?
Exactly, especially when it comes to postpartum and lactation concerns. At least in the United States, we do not have a lot of pharmaceutical options, and so
Right.
sometimes plants and foods really need to fill those gaps. And I think that we see not a strong focus on moving pharmaceuticals forward for lactation care, and so we really need to take the reins and look at what botanicals can do to help.
Right. And what would you say to listeners who say, well, I really don't have any garden here, I can't really grow anything? Um, what would you say to them why this presentation is still, important for them to watch?
Absolutely. Well, I'm sort of chuckling inside because when I was younger and had more free time, I had a beautiful garden, and now it has withered away because I'm quite busy. But that being said, there are some great resources, and I'm quite picky about where our botanical medicine comes from because for at least most countries and places where you can buy herbal medicine, it's not well regulated. So you don't always
Mm,
know what you're buying. And so you
right.
do need to know where your quality resources are. So we're not getting adulterated products, products with toxic overloads. We want to be safe. And so we'll talk a little bit about resources and safe sourcing. But there are so many great ways to purchase and grow your own herbs.
Hmm. Wonderful, fantastic. And that's what we're also gonna learn in the presentation, right?
Yeah, we'll speak to some resources towards the end of the talk. And then, of course, I'm always available as a sounding board. If someone needs to shoot me an email or if they live somewhere in particular, I could potentially see what resources are in their area for them.
Oh, that's wonderful. And also, we have the forum, the speaker forum. So after the
Yes.
presentations, if there are questions or even people who cannot attend the live presentation, but we have the recording as well, they can go on the forum, contact you there as well, and you would be available to give them
Absolutely.
some information.
Yes,
Perfect.
I love the
Wonderful.
Gold Forums. Such good collaborative learning happens there.
Great. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like we can learn so much from each other also. I always learn something when I look into the forums because some of our listeners, they just post the most wonderful questions. And
Hmm.
yeah, so there's a lot of learning going on after the presentation is done. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me ask you this before I let you go. What are you hoping our listeners will take away from this presentation?
Great question. I think the title says it all. I'm hoping that clinicians will have a little bit of a deeper understanding of how to individualize their approach to dietary and herbal galactagogues and not have this cookie cutter one size fits all, everybody approach. We want to be a little more nuanced in our selection and knowledge base around herbs. So I'm hoping if they take one or two gems on how to personalize their selection, that would be my main objective for the listeners.
How wonderful. Melissa, I can't wait for the presentation. I'm really excited about it. I'm looking already forward to learning from you.
Thank you,
And
Kristen.
and I thank you so much for sitting down here with me today and chatting.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. Thank you.
And now to our listeners, the presentation Beyond Fenugreek, an individualized approach to dietary and herbal galactagogues, is part of the Tools of the Trade lecture pack by Go Learning. And to find out more about this lecture presentation and the other presentations in this lecture pack, please visit goldlearning.com. Thank you everyone for listening. Bye bye.